happy to be joined by Pedro Munhoz, who's going to be taking on Zahabi, UFC Fight Night, November 2nd in Edmonton, Canada. Pedro, how you doing, man?
Pretty good, James. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you in a big fight here. Right amount of time off in between fights. We last saw you in March. We're talking about a fight here in November. Were you hoping to fight a bit sooner, or was this ideal timing?
No, that was just perfect. Time to heal a little bit, little by little, pick up in the trainings and fix some stuff here and there. Also able, to be free, like no fight coming up, and just training and taking as much partner that we're getting here in American Top Team. It was actually also a good timing of coaching too, help other fighters and that. And it was just perfect time. I want to be back by the end of October, November, December. So it was just a perfect time.
Okay. I referenced your last fight there in March against Phillips. I know you didn't end up getting the win there, but what did you learn the most from that fight?
We always learning something, MMA, it's such a new sport, and we can grow from so many different areas, and develop. But overall, I get to work on my footwork, get to work in, some strategies, well-rounded, working everything. Nothing specific, just everything.
Were you pretty familiar with Zahabi? Obviously, we know his brother is George St. Pierre's coach, but Eamon's been on quite the role since coming back to the UFC. Did you know much about him before taking this fight?
Just a little bit, not much. I remember one of his fights a long time ago, and then he took a long time off, and not until recently he fought I think Javi, Basharat.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. He's who I know is training at your gym now, right?
Yep. Yeah, he's training here. So, but before that, he took, I think it was a couple fights before that one, he took like a long break off.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what's happening, but so didn't get much surprise, and was a good opponent. Like I said, I was excited with the matchup. He's a good fighter, like any other one that I fought along these years, and it's gonna be a good challenge. I met Zahabi a long time ago. It was one of my first. I think it was in the first year that I signed UFC 10 years ago, 2014. I think we spoke a little bit. Jordan Pierre was still competing, so. Good guys, respectful, and that's it.
Let's talk a bit about training camp. You mentioned being at American Top Team, one of the biggest gyms in the world. Who have been some of the main training partners that you've been working with?
The guys that I have been training, James, for all the time that I was here. We have, our fighters, Denis Sabatello, Adriano Moraes, Kyoji. We have not from head right now. I don't remember all of them, but every once in a while, more frequently the last couple of years, we keep on getting a lot of Japanese, also bantamweight, featherweight, flyweights, a lot of Russians, Dagestanian, some Europeans, Brazilians. So it's the gym that we consistently have new people coming in and out. And the fighters that we live around here and that we did every day, the fighters that I always train: Denis Sabatello, Adriano Moraes, Kyoji, some other guys that they're not in the big companies, but they're major component and help for my skills development and training partners.
Yeah, no, for sure. I know a lot of people come to your gym too, so that's why I always ask, because sometimes you guys get like new people coming in, to come train a little bit. Like I know, for example, Movsar Ivoyev, he'll come and do some of his camps there. I know he's a different weight class, but still, I mean, you get a lot of good variety there, which is great, right?
We have a Movsar, he's here all the time. Movsar, the featherweight.
Yeah,
He was supposed
to fight. He was fighting Aljamain Sterling. Yeah.
Yeah. he's here all the time. Some other guys from Kazakhstan, some good fighters. Ringa is a bantamweight Japanese fighter. He came from Road UFC, so now
Yeah.
he's in UFC. Fought one time, fought already, won his fight. Bantamweight, well-rounded, good wrestler. Some other guys that fighting Ryzen, Bellator, PFL, uh, all over, all over. It's just a packed of people.
Yeah. No, it's a great gym. When are you going to be heading to Edmonton? Have you got your itinerary yet?
Yeah, getting there on Sunday night.
Oh, nice. Okay, so plenty of time.
The 27th. Yeah.
That's good. So a bit of time to adjust because it's a bit of a time change. I think they're on mountain time out there. So
I think it's about 2 hours
yeah,
behind us, right?
yeah, that's right. That makes sense.
Compared to LA, Vegas, which is 3 behind, right? Edmonton,
Yeah,
I think
that's true.
it's
Yeah,
2
no, you're right.
hours
You're right.
behind. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Who will be
So
making the
it's not
trip
bad
with
at all.
you? Who will be in
gonna
your corner for this
be
fight?
It's gonna be Coach Ivan, my boxing coach that I have been working with him the last 2-3 years. One of my striking coaches, Anderson, he can't not go because he just got his green card, so he's still in that process. So we're gonna take another coach instead, in Macaron, the guy that I've been working here in American Top. That's one of our coaches here at the gym also. Been working with him since day one, and also Coach Pahumpa too, guy that I always have been working with him, and that's gonna be those 3 guys. It's gonna be in my corner.
How do you see the fight playing out on November 2nd? It's going to be an entertaining fight, I think, between the both of you.
Yep. He has a unique style. He likes to do a lot of footwork. He likes to move side to side. He waits a little bit. He doesn't take much initiative. He's a more, I can see, as a counter fighter, but well-rounded, black belt in jiu-jitsu. A little bit of the fights. My coaches watch more of the fights. I try to focus on the stuff that I do and get some advice from my coaches to change some technique and strategy here and there. But what a little bit that I saw, a decent, good wrestling defense, good, well-rounded, not much, not much that I haven't seen before, or that I haven't faced opponents, that has the same skills as he does.
We had a big fight last weekend on Saturday, UFC 307. Guy you fought, Jose Aldo, fought Mario Bautista. I'm not sure if you saw the fight, but if you did, who do you think won that? Because some people felt like Aldo should have won the fight.
Yeah, I saw it the next day, just the highlights of the whole event. So I saw now, because it's hard for me to sit down nowadays with my kids, and then on a Saturday after training, like every day, like 2 times a day, some days 3 times. And then, Saturday morning too was a long morning of training. And I get to chill like Saturday's night. Before, I used to watch all the UFC, but I think I even told you that before. But the last few years of my life, I don't watch the fights live anymore. Boxing, UFC, Bellator, none of that. I watch the next day.
Yeah.
And I was watching some of the highlights. I didn't see the whole fight. I saw comments, a lot of people. I see a little bit of the play-by-play. I was reading that too. I see the highlights. It was what people was telling me, what I could get from there by reading the play-by-play and see the comments. It was the Mario won first round, but there was critique in the second and the third. Could it be to Aldo? They say that Mario was just holding him against the fence, but not being effective at all. That's much that I heard about it.
Yeah. Well, I think part of the criticism was that, that people felt like Aldo was trying to win the fight where Bautista was trying to maybe, neutralize Aldo and not make the position. But what's weird, Pedro, is Merab Dvalishvili did the same thing against Aldo, and he didn't get nearly as much hate for that. I don't know if you watched that fight with Merab and Jose Aldo. It was a similar fight.
Yeah, that one I also watch a little bit of that fight. Watch all
Mhm.
the all 3 rounds, but like highlights. And that's the conclusion that I got a little bit. There was, I think Mario used kind of like Merab's strategy. And if you remember, I was actually there live when he fought long time ago Alexander Volkanovich, which for me, I see those quick questions that you ask people, who's the fighter that you think that has the most IQ. And in my point of view, it was Volkanovich. Not that I like his style, but his IQ for fighting is really good, and he was able to read Aldo. I wasn't real for the fight. I was live, sitting there watching that fight with my parents, and I watched the whole fight. And then I saw a fight that was a little bit boring, but he was pressing Aldo, and Aldo, he he knows his takedown defense. He knows he has a really good takedown defense, and it's hard for people to take him down. So he kind of think accept that kind of like people shooting for takedown. He letting people walk him all the way through the cage. And Volkanovski was there a little bit, not being much ineffective, but putting more pressure, especially against the fence. It's a boring fight to watch it, but he won. And then after that, I could see it when I fought Aldo. I really was trying to kickboxing him. My style. It's sometimes I wish I could have, be more strategic by winning some ugly fights here and there, but I always want to try to bring the best out of the other guy and myself too. Even in training, I'm always wanting to be effective in submission and in striking, try to knock people out, and that's how I display in my fights. And Merab did that strategy very well, and now what I heard, it was a little bit. There has a lot of similarity on what Mario Bautista was doing to Aldo, but I was not. But I was not. I was not interested. I was not interested to fight, to watch that fight. To be honest with you.
Yeah, after hearing what happened. Okay, understandable. And then we haven't spoken either since a guy you fought, Sean O'Malley, lost his belt to Merab Dvalishvili. I don't know if you saw that fight, but were you surprised to see how much success Merab had in that fight and get the win?
Oh man, I was definitely uh, interested to see it. Um, I just think Mirabi is a tank. Like those tanks that just go forward and has a lot of durability, and his cardio too, and how he's built genetically. And I was happy for Merab to see him conquer his dream to become a bantamweight uh, world world champion.
Do you think Merab beats Umar Nurmagomedov? That's probably going to be the next fight.
Don't know. Good fight, Umar. Um, it would be an interesting fight. I would not take a guess in neither of them, but
Mhm.
it would be an interesting fight between both of them.
Do you think Henry Cejudo fights again? He obviously retired and then he came back and had the two fights against Sterling and Merab. They didn't go his way. We haven't heard much from him since then. Just as someone who's in the division, do you think he fights again?
I Before that fight, I was trying to get a contact with Sean, the matchmaker, Sean Chobe. I was interested to fight. I was interested before I got my fight booked to fight Cejudo. We are kind of like the same age. Um, I had a good victories in UFC, and he's the fighter that we all know how good he is. So that was one of the fights that I was interested to fight against. And another fight that I was very interested was against Dominic. That's not much active as I am. We fought a fight. I lost. I don't remember how was the scorecards, but it was a very close fight. I almost knocked him out. I almost knocked him out two
I
times in
remember that.
round
Yeah, you were close.
round number one.
Mhm.
Dropped him with the jab, and then right after that, I left the hook. I dropped him two times in the round. Second and third round, he was, very smart and strategic by moving, touch me, which I was, also tagging him. They gave him that victory. It was something that it would be good if we get the rematch like I did with Jimmy. We fought. It was a close fight. He won, and then a few years later we fought again, and then I won the decision. So that was one of those type of fights that I would like to have to fight. I usually not the ones that ask for rematch, things like that, because things move on. I get it. But
Hmm.
in Dominick's case, I kept very active after that fight. Won against Chris Gutierrez. It was coming from 7 straight victories, and I beat him unanimous decision. And then after that, I got fought Chito in a 5 weeks notice. Lost to a close fight. Kyler Phillips after that also lost back to back. None of these guys ever dropped me or hurt me. None of that. So again, I think Dominic was also one of the fights that would be good if you able to run that fight back in the near future, I guess.
Well, what do you think of Cruz? Because he fought. You're right. He fought you in 2021. Then he fought Cheeto the year after in August, and he got knocked out. But he hasn't fought since then, and he's still ranked. Do you think if you're inactive for that long, you should be taken out of the rankings? What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's a little bit bullshit, the rank situation. Like I
Mm.
was just right after my fight against Kyler Phillips, I think I was number 12. And then I fought him, they moved me to 13, 14, 15, and then eventually out of the ranking. And then I kept active all this time. And and that kind of situation, it's good for him, but that kind of situation, seeing that kind of stuff, it just shows me that it's a bunch of bullshit. And I don't know who runs that, but it's just bullshit.
Yeah, I think you should be rewarded for being active, right? Like, and it's not like Cruz, like we don't know where he is. He does commentary all the time for the UFC. I think it's just weird that he hasn't fought in 2 years and he's still in the rankings where
Yeah,
there's other people in the division that have, been active and picking up
yeah,
wins. I think it does, it affects the rankings when someone is just holding their spot, right?
yeah. Also, Font has the same amount of defeat that I had. I beat him a few years
Yeah, that
ago, and
too.
then
Yeah.
he's I think
You
12 or
finished
10 or
him. You're one of
something.
the few. You're one of the few fighters that have finished Rob Font. He hasn't.
Yeah,
He mainly loses by decision. But I remember because I was at that fight when you submitted him.
yeah,
That was in Vegas.
yeah. He has the same loss that has almost, I think, has the same amount of loss that I had in UFC.
Mm.
We fought basically almost the same guys, and when we fought, I beat him, and yeah, and then I thought about those things before, like, oh, why these guys in the ranking? Why these guys not so active and still in the ranking? This guy here that I beat, he's in the ranking, and then I'm not. But it doesn't. There's nothing that I can do about it. So I'm very glad that UFC wanted to keep re-signing with me and give me fights in something that I like to do. I love to do. I love MMA. Like I say, I have been coaching American Top Team now for the last 2 years, the pro also. I sub a lot of the coaches that travel, and I have my own classes there. So I would not be happy if I was not fighting and teaching. And then I'm glad that I can still doing that. I'm 38 years old, and then every day I wake up with that passion to go in training. The night before I go to bed, like happy that the next day is just coming up, and I'll be gonna be able to go in the gym and train. So that's the reason that also keep me healthy and competing at the highest level that
Yeah.
long.
Yeah, and still making time for interviews, Pedro. I really appreciate it. It is UFC Fight Night, November 2nd in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. If there's anyone you would like to thank or anything you want to mention before we get out of here, I'll give you the last word.
My whole team, American Top Team, we have amazing fighters there, coaches, infrastructure. They try to do everything to accommodate us, to give us the best training. And also, I'm a coach there, so I'm doing the same for the fighters that's coming.